to the Hunt Wellness Classroom. Today we are going to be talking all about stress in the immune system and how that affects those of us with autoimmune disease. So if you look into the scientific literature, it is shown significantly that chronic, unrelenting stress has a profound effect on autoimmune disease, and it actually creates and brings on our flares. So when we don't have stress, flares reduce. But when stress is higher in our body, that's when flares happen. So let's talk a little bit about stress, because stress, when we think about stress, we're like, I'm not stressed out. It's not just in our mind. It's not just what's going on in our little world and in our little bubble. It's about what's going into our body. So how are we eating? It's about how are we moving? How are we not moving? How are we sleeping? What are the things in our body that are creating some toxic burden? So environmental stressors, and also, are we feeling isolated? Are we feeling depressed? Do we have higher anxiety? Do we have higher stress loads? It's practically impossible to completely cut out the stress in our life. That's just how life is, especially these days. We can't just reduce and cut out the stress in our life. It's pretty much impossible. But what we can do is reduce the amount of stress that has been put on our body. So with autoimmune disease, trying to remove those stresses is what is most important. So when we think about stress, I think about chronic stress that is, obviously our body is in turmoil because it's continually fighting against itself, against the tissue, creating pain and fatigue and all of these issues that you are experiencing. So chronic stress actually creates all of these problems. I'm just going to list them off. Increases inflammation, which is the last thing we want in autoimmune disease. It increases leaky gut or intestinal permeability. If we have a leaky gut, things that are in our intestines are leaking out of it, creating these inflammatory issues. It decreases gut motility, so constipation. It decreases mucus, so that we can't get through that gut motility easily. And mucus is very important for so many parts of our body. And if that's decreased, we aren't functioning as properly. It also inhibits digestive secretion in the pancreas and gallbladder. You may be like, what? So our pancreas and our gallbladder are absolutely essential to our digestive system. So many people have gotten their gallbladders out, and about 5 to 10 years later, they experience a lot of issues. Our gallbladder is actually very, very essential to our digestion. If we don't have a gallbladder, we can't break down protein and fat, which is half of the food that we eat. So if you don't have a gallbladder, you probably need to be on a supplement to replace the bile that your gallbladder used to make. But when you have chronic stress, it inhibits the secretion of those digestive fluids, the bile and the pancreatitis that comes out of the pancreas and out of the gallbladder to help break down our food. And it breaks down the protein and the fat so that we actually have energy and we actually have minerals and things that we need to be absorbing in our body. So if we have chronic stress and that is inhibited, that's a problem. We aren't digesting our food properly. It also decreases intestinal blood flow. It alters the gut microbiome, and it reduces our sleep quality. So that is a lot of issues just from stress. So how do we fix that? There's not a one-size-fits-all sort of situation here. Everybody's autoimmune disease is so different. It's important to make sure you have all the pieces to the puzzle for you. But when it comes to chronic stress, it's important to begin somewhere. And food is the thing we can control the most. And it's important to have some control over your life when everything feels like it's out of your control. And food is one of those things that you can control. You can make choices that are healthy and that will benefit you in the long run. So when you're thinking about reducing stress, that's where I would recommend you start. Start with cleaning up your diet, finding a protocol that works, work with a nutritional therapy practitioner that can actually help guide you to the protocol that's right for your body. I highly recommend the autoimmune paleo diet or autoimmune protocol. It's very effective for autoimmune disease. But gaining a little bit of control actually could help reduce your stress load as well. So, and when you start feeling better, you can start then tackling more. But then we have things that you could continue to try. So movement, for example. Movement can be a major stressor in our life. If you are the type of person that's like, I will be at my CrossFit class every single day, and you are also in a flare, I mean, the fact that you're functioning and going to CrossFit is like, all right, you're doing all right. Most of us, if we're in a flare, we're not doing any kind of CrossFit. I want to caution you not to move your body too intensely. So too much movement, too much harsh intensity can create more stress on your body. And that is the last thing you want to be doing, is putting more stress on your body, creating a higher intensity flare. But on the other side of the scale, not moving enough, not getting mobile and moving your body, even if it is just walking or stretching or yoga, like that's really where you should start anyway. But just like get up and go outside, take a walk around the block. Like if you can't do anything else, like movement helps. It really does. It may seem like it doesn't, like that's the last thing I need to be doing. And in some cases, of course, that is the last thing you need to be doing. But exercise is essential for reducing stress, and it actually puts a lot of endorphins in your body, creating a better mental space for you instead of feeling down in the dumps about your situation. So movement really can make a difference, and it can also break that stress load majorly if you're overdoing it. So finding a good balance for you, something that works for your body. Another one is sleep. Sleep is, if you have insufficient sleep and you're sleeping only 5 hours a week or 5 hours a day, that's a really big issue, because your body, when you're in a flare, when you have an autoimmune disease, it's essential for you to have sleep. If you don't sleep enough, especially if you're in a flare, your body won't heal. It just won't, because your body does the most amount of healing when it's turned off, and it is no other function there's no you're not moving, you're not thinking, you're not eating. So all of these things that our body has to work to function get shut down at night. So if we're only sleeping 5 hours a night, then our body doesn't have time to flush our mind, give it the rest it needs, puts its energy into actually going where it needs the most amount of healing. So you need to sleep. If you have a thyroid disease, if you have major fatigue problem, fibromyalgia, you need to be sleeping 18 hours a day, 15 to 18. Most of your day is probably spent sleeping, and it's probably super frustrating. But that for you is probably the right thing to be doing, because your body is I don't know what else to do. I can't function. I need to sleep, and sleep is where it does its most amount of healing. So there's a lot, when we don't sleep, it creates so many sleep disorders, and it increases the risks of your autoimmune disease to rise about 50%. So we really want to make sure we're sleeping and getting a full sleep cycle in, a full 7 to 8 hours. If you do shift work, that's, you probably need to make some life altering choices there, because you need to be making sure that you're falling in line with your circadian rhythm. When it's light outside, that's when it's time to be awake. When it's dark outside, it's time to go to bed. So following that circadian rhythm, if you don't know much about that, you can read tons of information online, but essentially it's following the sun and the moon, and following that as your sleep cycle. And then there is toxic burden. So there are tons of toxins in our society, lots and lots. So toxins could be your, hair and body care. It could be your makeup. It could be your cleaning supplies in your kitchen. It could be the things that you work with at your work. If you handle chemicals or anything like that, those are all toxins. And the body absorbs those things. We don't always think about the skin as an organ, but when you think about lotion and you rub it in and it gets absorbed into your skin, that's what the skin does. It absorbs things and it goes into your body, into your cells, into your bloodstream. So if you're working with chemicals, if you're working with things that have chemicals in them, even if it's makeup, it's getting absorbed into your body, into your cells, creating burdens. So that burden happens in our liver, and because when these toxins come through our body, our liver is the place where, all those toxins, our body doesn't know what to do with it, so it sends it to the liver. The liver can't detox it because it's a foreign substance, so it creates congestion. So we need to work on a way to decongest that liver. So daily detoxing, reducing that stress load, reducing those chemicals that we're working with, switching them out for healthier options, that will reduce that toxic burden. But then on top of that, here are my 2 big tips for just about every client I work with is drink beet juice every day. I like the beet apple ginger. That is my favorite combination. I have a half a cup a day. And I also have a cup of dandelion tea every day. Those are daily detoxifiers and they focus on detoxing your liver. So trying to switch out these products and these things that you're using every day for healthier, cleaner options. If you want to work on switching out your cleaning supplies, there is a blog post up on my blog that you can check out for switching those out. There are great cleaner beauty products out there. You can check those out. If you want to work on reducing your toxins, do some research on cleaner living. I think that will get you in the right direction. And then connection. Connection is the other one. We don't think about this as a stress load, but a lot of us have been in isolation for over a year now, and things are finally starting to open up, and we can, see friends and go out to dinner again and things like that. But when you think about autoimmune disease, it's a pretty isolating disease, and you don't think that anybody else will understand. Nobody really understands the pain levels you're in. Nobody is in your shoes. I want to be the one to tell you that's a big fat lie that's happening in your brain. You are not alone. There are thousands of people that have autoimmune disease, and your autoimmune disease and the pain that you're going through is real, and it is totally justified, and it's not in your head. You're not alone. There are support groups out there. I guarantee you talk to, 1 out of 10 people, somebody has got an autoimmune disease, and you can find a kindred spirit and somebody to talk to about these things. If they don't have it diagnosed, they're probably on their way to diagnosing it, because autoimmune disease is rampant in our country now. So many people have autoimmune disease. So connection, though, is so important. When we're isolated, we can't work through these things alone. When we are alone, that creates stress. Now, there's a difference between those of you that are introverts and extroverts. Even us introverts, like myself, we need people. We need human connection. We think we don't. We do. We really do. We need people to tell us we're doing okay. Hang in there. I hope you feel better. Somebody to give you a hug when you need one. Finding people to make true connections with, even if it is just venting it all out, finding a way to get all of that information out. Just laying it on thick, you know. I when I was in flares, it was like, I just need to talk to somebody. I need to get my mind off of this, even if it's about somebody else. I just like need to make connection outside of myself, because my body's out of control and I can't do anything about it. But I need connection. I need to talk to people and not feel so down and bad about my life situation. So when we tend to like really focus too heavily on what's going on in our body, it actually creates more stress. So these are my big tips for reducing your stress loads. If you want to try to reduce your flares, reduce the amount of pain you're in, stress is your key factor. You have to reduce that chronic stress, because if you don't, things will continue to get worse and your flare will be extended. It just will. Like it says, chronic unrelenting stress has a profound impact on autoimmune disease, creating flares. So, you know, like this is something that might be time to make a priority for you. If you are just like, I don't know where to start. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm happy to work with you. I specialize in autoimmune disease. I'm happy to do that. But I've given you plenty of things to potentially work on. You know, you can work on changing your diet, cleaning it up a bit, moving, whether that's reducing the amount of movement you're doing or increasing it. Working on how much you sleep. Don't get too little. Get as much as your body is asking for. Making sure you are reducing your toxic burdens. So if you need to do some like switches in your healthy living situation and in your work situation, that might be time to do that. And also going out and finding connection, finding your friends and spending time with them, talking to them on the phone. Having your partner give you a hug, like just a hug alone for 10 seconds, an extended hug, reduces our stress load significantly. So finding ways to reduce that stress load is achievable. And I believe in you. You can do this. Just take one of those and see how much of a difference it makes. I hope this was helpful. If you have more questions or you have comments or tidbits that have worked for you in reducing your stress load, please comment below. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next class.